Hey everyone, welcome to Stuff I Never Learned from the School Book. If you are looking at the bearded one who happens to be traveling today, it is Monday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern, 6 Pacific, 5 Mountain, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Sorry, it's a long Monday already. 2 p.m. out in Hawaii, 6 a.m. tomorrow morning out in Indonesia. Hello, Zhang. And about 9 a.m. tomorrow morning out in Australia. Welcome, everybody. My name is Tom Springer, and I am host of Stuff I Never Learned from the School Book. Again, if you are looking at the bearded one for the first time, the show is mine. It comes on Monday nights at 7 p.m., as I stated. And that will be having a small change in February. We will start running every other week, but I will talk about that later. Sorry, drawing a blank because, again, I'm traveling. So anyways, I am here tonight with someone I'm very excited to talk to because I have always been looking for someone of this style, of this, I don't know what you want to call it. I'm gonna let her explain it, but of what she does for a while. And she just happened to kind of walk into my world without knowing she was walking into my world, which is fantastic because I was able to pull her aside and talk to her for a couple of minutes. But anyways, I am going to go ahead and bring in Dr. Beverley. So everyone stand by and say hello to Dr. Beverley. Hi, Dr. Beverley. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, absolutely. So I normally like to tell people how I found you and how I met. This is Stuart saying hello, everyone from Texas. Rosie's saying hello to all of us. Uilani Ku'ule is out of Hawaii. She's saying hello to everybody. And this wonderful lady right here is my wife, Nikki. She's actually back in Nebraska while I'm out here in Nashville right now, saying hi to you as well. This will happen. A lot of people rolling in to say hi. And then I did mention the one person that would be popping in from Indonesia. Oops. There she is, Zhang. That's why I read off those time zones, because I have people from all over the world who actually pop in and listen to the show. So I kind of read off the time zones so they know where I'm at. They know what time they're going to be coming in later as well. I tell people how we met. And for you, it's kind of my standard how when I go to like Mystic Fest or Holistic Fest in my local area up in Omaha, Nebraska, and I walk around and I can actually pick up on the energy of the person. And if it's a very good energy, then I will normally stop and listen to you talk for a little bit to make sure that you're not just a salesperson or whatever else. And I mean that in the nicest way, because there are some people that have very good energies, but they are only there to sell the products that their bosses want them to sell or the owners want them to sell. And they can give you some information. Otherwise, you're just like, you have to talk to my boss at the store or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And then I ran into you, and it was very funny because I ran into you at first. And I loved your energy. I passed you like 2 or 3 times, and I kept going back by you because you were just so busy. I couldn't get a chance to stop and talk to you. It was incredible. I was like, oh my goodness, but I keep having to go back to see this lady. And then finally I had an opening. And I stood back and I listened to you talk. And I'll let you talk about what you were selling and what you were making and everything else. But the intricate detail in which you talked, because you were actually talking about something that you have made that was someone else is going to use, but you said you need to remember that you're going to be using water to mix into this because water is the life force through all of the ancient ancestries and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, this woman not only has a very good energy, but she really knows her stuff. And then it was funny because I stepped back for a second and I was listening to you, and I honestly thought that you were just like a salesperson, but like maybe the daughter of the person who was doing it or anything else, because you were so young looking. And I mean that in the greatest positive way. Anyway, I was thinking this lady's in her 20s. She's up here selling this stuff.
Oh, it's so sweet.
How come I haven't seen her before?
Right. You saw my daughter.
I saw both of you.
That was my daughter.
Of you.
Yeah.
And I thought you both might have been like sisters that were working together in the program. And I was like, well, how does she know so much being so young? And so I'm like, now I just got to talk to her. And then we started talking, and you're like, oh no, this is mine. This is what I do. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. So I asked you to come on my show, and you were nice enough to say yes. And then it turns out you're not even anywhere in my area. So that was even more amazing that you made it all the way to Omaha.
Mhm.
And I'm going to say it in the most selfish possible way I can. You came all the way in Omaha so I can meet you.
Oh, that's so nice. Well,
So,
I love Omaha. I try to get to Mystic Fest whenever I can, but I
yeah,
love Omaha. I've got great friends there, and you have the best steaks there. Are you kidding me?
right.
The
Absolutely.
steaks.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, we do. So a couple more people just coming in to say hi. But
Hello.
so people to I want people to meet you. So I want you to talk about everything you were doing at Mystic Fest. But first, I want you to introduce yourself, and
Okay.
I want you to tell them what you do and then how you got involved in doing it. Like how young were you? What brought you into it? Whatever else you want to share with us, and then we'll start getting into more details as well.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Beverley Smith, and I'm known in hoodoo circles as Dr. Beverley. I'll explain what hoodoo is in just a minute, but first I'll tell you a little something about myself. I currently live in Southern California. I'm originally from the New York City area, and I've been in Southern California now for quite some time. I've lived most of my adult life here, and I love it. I started out spiritually as a very young child. I saw garden spirits.
Ooh,
Um, I don't know. Some people might call them fairies
fairies,
or
yeah.
gnomes or something, but I saw garden spirits that were more like flashes of light than
Hmm.
anything else, but I could see them and I could communicate with them. Well, I was raised in a very fundamentalist Christian household. And of course, that was highly discouraged. So I
Right.
learned at a very young age not to talk about those things anymore, but it was
Yep.
still in my heart. It was still in my consciousness. It was still something that I wanted to know more about because I, as a very young child, understood that there was more to this existence
Right.
than what my senses were telling me, and certainly more than what was being told to me in my fundamentalist church.
Hmm.
So the minute that I grew up and moved out of my parents' home, I started looking into various different religions. And I checked out so many. I read about Buddhism. I read about Hinduism and Sikhism. I read about, I touched a little bit on, uh, I think you pronounce it Zoroaster religion.
Yeah. Yep.
Pardon me if I'm saying it incorrectly. And I, in the end, decided to check out the Druid religion. On my
Yeah.
father's side, I have Irish ancestry. And so I thought, let me check out the Druids. So I studied with them for many, many years. I became a teacher. And in this religion, this was the Druidic craft of the right. I mean, of the Druidic craft of the wise, the American Rite. Now, that's not RIGHT, that's
Right.
RITE.
TE.
Well,
Yep.
sometimes when I tell people that I was a Druid of the American Rite, they're like, oh, they think that I'm some horrible, I don't even know what, but they,
Yeah.
they, they, they they have preconceptions about what I'm at. No, this is the American Rite, the
Right.
RITE. And so I was a druid and I rose up through the ranks as I was initiated, rose up through the ranks with various initiations as a teacher, eventually became a priestess, eventually became a high priestess. And I
Ooh.
was in that for over 20 years. So about 22 years later, I decided to retire. I had raised up a group of people who could take over my
Right.
coven, who could grow it and continue to lead it. But I wanted something more for my African side. I wanted
Right.
something that would speak more to my African heart. I had
Yeah.
done homage to my Celtic, my Irish ancestors for over 20 years, and now I wanted to do honor to my African ancestors. However,
Absolutely.
all of my recent relatives are all fundamentalist Christians. I did not want to go back down that road.
Yeah.
So at the time, my best friend was involved in Hoodoo. It's also called Conjure. And what that is, it's a spiritual system, a magical system based on the innate power of herbs, the innate power of every living green thing. Every plant has a job, has a contract with the divine. It doesn't matter to me who you call a divine.
Right.
When I speak of God, I speak of the God of your understanding,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
the goddess of your understanding. Whoever you perceive to be the fount of your spiritual power, which, by the way, in the Druid tradition, it's yourself.
It's you. Yeah. I say it's
It's
you.
you. The thing is, if we, the Christian religion and the Jewish religion teaches us that we are children of God.
Right.
Well, if we're children of God, we have to be none other but juvenile gods, right? I mean,
Right.
children of dogs are not kittens. They're puppies. They're
Right.
puppies that are dogs in the making. We are gods in the making. But I digress. Let's get back to Hoodoo. It all ties in. It all ties in. Hoodoo is also called Conjure and is African American. And what happened was, when my African ancestors were uh, human trafficked
Hmm.
from Western Africa and brought to the United States in forced slavery, forced
Hmm.
enslavement, they were under the lash, under the whip. They were forced to accept the Christian religion.
Right.
They were forced to accept it, to become Christians, but they kept some of their old ways. In fact, some were able to, before they were swept away from their native land, some were able to bring seeds and cuttings
Yes.
with them. And when they got to the what is now called the US, they mingled with some of the native people, some of the
Hmm.
indigenous people who shared their herbal and floral medicine with them.
Hmm.
The African people were saying, okay, I recognize this plant because this grows where I was taken from, but I don't recognize this plant. And the
Right.
indigenous person would say, okay, this plant we use for headaches, or
That's it.
this
Right.
plant we use for constipation. So when they came to the United States, they were able to retain their ancestral knowledge with the plants that they were able to bring with them, and integrate that with the plants that were here. And they believe that plants hold the direct power of the divine, that
Yeah.
plants have a contract with the God of your understanding. Plants have a contract to help humans and other animals and other living beings, to help us with wellness, to help dispel illness, to help us get the rest and have the energy that we need. So every plant has a job to do. They believe in the magical properties of plants. And so I started studying hoodoo, and it totally resonated with me. I absolutely loved it. I absolutely got it. I absolutely, because of my training as a druid, I
That's
already
what I was gonna say.
understood.
It tied into your druidic side, and it was like,
I,
oh, I
exactly.
understand this.
Well, I already understood how to manifest. Give
Yeah.
you an example. In hoodoo, we have what's known as a mojo bag.
Hmm.
And a mojo bag can be used for all kinds of things. It depends on your intent and your condition, the situation you're in, the situation that you wish to change or you wish to heal. For example, a money mojo bag, a prosperity mojo bag, an abundance mojo bag, there are certain herbal ingredients that you would put in that. But it's not just a matter of throwing, cinnamon and thyme and sassafras into a mojo bag, tying it up and calling it lovely.
Hmm.
It's more than that. You have to manifest, you have to connect with those herbal spirits and make them, invite them to understand what your intent is, what your request is, and work with them to manifest. See, a lot of people think, oh, I got me a book on hoodoo.
Right.
I got me a book on hoodoo, and I know if I take this, and that and put it together, voila.
Right.
Not quite. Not quite. Because while we all agree in all spiritual traditions, we agree that certain plants have certain healing and magical powers. We
Right.
all agree on this. The thing is, the difference is, how do we manifest those powers? How do we work with those herbal energies so that they will be willing to work with us? How
Right.
do we relate to them? How do we interact with them so that we will be working with them to our highest good? There lies the secret. So I want you to understand, hoodoo is not a religion. It's a magical practice. It's a
Right.
magical practice. Now, to be fair, to be truthful, most hoodoo practitioners are Black Christians.
Hmm.
And when they do conjure, which is also another name for hoodoo, oh, and I want to get off into another tangent in a second to explain to you how hoodoo is absolutely not voodoo.
Hoodoo.
All right.
Yes.
So don't let me forget that. But there's this thought that if we just follow the recipes, we can make things happen. And it's very true. It's very true. If you drink ginger, an infusion of ginger tea or ginger ale or ginger beer when you have a stomach ache, is definitely going to soothe your belly.
Right.
Though
Right.
that's the intrinsic power of the ginger.
Right.
However, if you want to do maybe a money draw, or you want to attract that little honey over there, or there's a job that you want to get, the ginger is going to assist you, but you need to know how it's going to assist you. It's going to
Right.
assist you because ginger, as we know, has healing properties. Ginger also has magical and spiritual properties. And the magical and spiritual property of ginger is that it heats up. It heats up any spell work that you're doing. In hoodoo, we don't call it spells. We call it
Yeah.
root work. We call it root work. And the
Okay.
root work, and people are like, are you just referring to roots? No, honey. In hoodoo, the roots is everything: the flower, the stems, the sexual organs of the plant, the
Hmm.
leaves, the roots, all of it we call roots. All
Okay.
of it are roots. That's why we call ourselves root workers, because we work with plants to improve our situation, or to change our situation, or to manifest a magical something magical happening.
Right.
So that's what that's just a little overview as to what I, as a root worker, do. Now, when you met me, I was at Mystic Fest selling the incenses, the spiritual oils. I make a spiritual oil for any kind of condition you can think of, protection, sexual attraction, sexual dysfunction, love, reconciliation, separation, abundance, prosperity, getting a good job, fixing your boss so they act right. There's all kinds of things. I was selling spiritual baths. All of these things I handcraft myself using the appropriate herbs as I understand them in Hoodoo. I'm also led by elders. I'm blessed to know a few elders now. They're in their 80s and they've been practicing all their lives. Although in the black Christian church, there was a lot of discouragement against using Hoodoo starting in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 1950s, because what it was is that people were trying to assimilate. They wanted to get along. They wanted to be seen as the same as white America. They didn't want to be, oh, well, those people over there, not only are they black, but they practice some kind of black magic. They didn't want to be involved with that. And then on top of it, you had Christians, black Christians, telling us that it was of the devil, that it was bad, that it was evil. And so the practice of it was seriously discouraged in the black church from the 60s all the way back. I would say that Hoodoo and the practice of conjure was always there and had a huge resurgence after the Emancipation Proclamation. But then 100 years later, less than 100 years later, they started backing off and started discouraging and I want to bring that back. That's what I'm here to do. I want to teach young people. Well, I'm teaching people of all ages, but I particularly want young black people to understand what their heritage is, that this is their spiritual heritage, no matter what their particular religion is. Because really the Druids believe, and in my heart, I'm still very Druid. And the Druids believe that all gods are one. That all gods are one, that we're all climbing a mountain to perfection. And you might be taking one trail and I might be taking another footpath and someone else might be doing another trail, but we're all heading towards perfection. That's what we want. That's our goal. And so I want people to understand that there are magical, some people prefer the word magic, some people prefer the word spiritual. However you want to say it, it's beyond the mundane. It's beyond what we can see. It comes from the soul. It comes from the spirit, that power that makes it, that power of creation that we have as our birthright because we are children of God.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh-oh. You froze on me, or I froze. Someone froze. Stand by 1 second. Okay, so sir, good. In fact, I just asked that question. Who froze? So I'm still here. Okay. I think her power broke it. So if you're still hearing me and you're not seeing her, then I think her power broke it. So that's good to know. But we'll get her back. She may just need to disconnect and reconnect. Hopefully she will. Because I don't want her to think she got bounced. Yep, see, there she goes. So she should be coming back in, hopefully. Yeah, a lot of good information on this one. I already have like a ton of questions. I'm just holding off. And for those of you who have kind of already typed up stuff that I'm not just throwing up, I do normally star them so I can go back to them and look at them again, just so you know that. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm just waiting for a proper opening to jump in to share these, with these comments and these questions with her. Yes, Sylvie, it's true. The winter cold is too much and it froze her screen. But the problem is she's out in Southern California where she's not freezing right now like the rest of us are. Even me right now, I'm in Tennessee traveling for work. So I'm in Nashville right now, and a bunch of schools were closed today because the freeze. I guess what happened out here is it got frozen. Then they had a bunch of snow dump on top of it, and then it got cold enough to where it started to melt a little bit, or it warmed up enough to where it's melting a little bit, and then it froze all back over again. So now they have ice on top of ice. Not too terrible though. I mean, like I was able to still go in and teach today, but they do have a lot of the schools closed in the area because they just not used to dealing with this. So I'm trying to see if she writes me back or sends me a message or does something so I know. Oh, and there she is.
I am so sorry. All of a sudden we had a brownout here, and my screen went black. Everything in the room. Oh my goodness!
I told them that you had. I just told them it was you. I said it was so much energy coming through that you just broke the internet. So that's what I think it was.
So where was I?
So you were just talking about how you were having others, like you want to train others, you want to do,
Yes.
and you were talking about we were climbing the mountains. All of us were climbing the mountains to perfection, based off of your Druidic belief.
And
so
that's all I really want to say is that that's really very dear to my heart, because we're all different and we all have different needs and we all have different spirits, really. And so your spirit may need something different than mine. And so I used to, when I first left the Christian church, I was very judgmental. I was very angry and bitter. And I felt like that was something that I never wanted to ever deal with again. And but I also wanted to put other people down. Well, I had to grow up, because I learned in all those years that I was a Druid that people are going to seek out what feeds them. So if Christianity feeds their soul, I totally respect that.
Right.
I've grown to the place where I respect everyone's choices, because people are trying to do the best for themselves. And there's no such thing as a one size fits all spirituality. So
that's a big forgiveness. I mean, that's a big thing to learn. There's a lot of people that don't learn that throughout their entire life. They don't learn that, and it's just something that unfortunately that's not how it works. I want to kind of go back up with a couple comments that were made or questions, and I'm going to come back to those before I start asking you questions that I have and letting you and verging off into another location we talked about earlier. Kathy's saying tea tree oil works wonders for joints and muscle pain. Absolutely. So Rosie posted earlier. She said, while I'm outside, I talk with my pine and cedar bushes and grab a branch like I'm holding someone's hand and thank them for being there and being strong. So a lot of people who are like me and my wife who paranormal investigate, when we ground, we go out to trees and we hold onto the trees to help remove that negative energy from us and to help take it into the ground. And that's why we call it grounding. Kathy had a question for you, and she said, is there a spell book on Hoodoo with recipes?
Oh, there are so many. A lot of people have written books. I am really fond of, there's one that I really love, and it's by Professor Charles Porterfield.
Okay.
Porterfield. Charles Porterfield. It's called A Deck of Spells. And I use that book. I reference that book. I love that book. It is now you'll find a lot of people read tarot cards. Professor Porterfield reads playing cards, just regular old playing cards. And so this book teaches you, it's filled, oh my goodness, it's filled with uh, recipes for hoodoo work. He even teaches you a little bit about what you need to do to learn how to manifest the work.
Hmm.
So it's not just recipes,
Right.
but there's all kinds of really important spiritual information in there, and it's really a beautiful thing, because he teaches you how all of those playing cards in different combinations can be used in root work to address all kinds of situations, protection, um, keeping the law away. I mean, I get pulled over all the time for speeding. I don't know why I've got such a lead foot. And what I do is I anoint my 4 tires with tansy oil.
Hmm.
Tansy. T is in Tom. Ansy. Tansy oil will keep the law away. But I digress. This book is filled with information on the different herbs that are used for different situations, and also different combinations of herbs to be used with the different combinations of playing cards. It's really quite brilliant. But there are so many books out there. I mean, really, all you really have to do is Google hoodoo or root work. I personally am writing a book now. It's not ready. It's not ready, but I'm writing a book on hoodoo in the kitchen, how to prepare various, and I'm going to do entire menus, like how to catch that honey, how to cook to get the perfect job. So the magic is not only in the herbs, but in ingesting that meal, the meal that's made with magical love and ingested with love. And so there are all kinds of books that you can get. Another good one on hoodoo is by what's his name? His name is Hoodoo San Moise. Let me spell it for you. Hoodoo, and then Sen, S as in Sam, E-N, and then new word, Moise. M, I believe it's for the word Moses, for the name Moses. So it's Moise. Hoodoo Sen Moise does a really good book. I believe it's called Working Conjure. Working Conjure. Those are 2 really good books. There's a whole bunch of them. They're slipping my mind right now, but a Google search you will find the information that you need. And you can always
Perfect.
contact me at info@docbev.com if you have any questions about hoodoo. But yeah,
Okay. What was that?
I can
What was that
recommend
again?
those books.
What was yours again?
Info
Yours.
at docbev.com. Oh, the other one was
All right.
Working
Oh
Conjure
no,
by,
I got
you
that
got
one.
that
Yep,
one?
I got that one.
Great.
I needed yours.
Okay.
Because as you're telling me, I'm actually typing them into the comments, so that way
Perfect.
people can
Perfect.
go back and find them into the comments.
Great.
So that's what I've been doing while you've been saying it. I've been typing those in. So
Good.
Stuart is saying he does the same thing. He preps in the kitchen, and it makes you full and fat. Uh, and then Rosie wants to know, is hoodoo the same as an herbalist?
Um, I don't, I mean, there are some similarities, but I don't think that a hoodooist would necessarily consider himself an herbalist. From what I understand, herbalists get a lot of training. Sometimes they have to train for years because of the thousands of herbs that there are, and they have to learn the state and government laws, and they have to have certification before they can work. In hoodoo, I don't make anything that people ingest.
Mm.
Everything that I make, I mean, I can recommend to you to have ginger tea for your stomach ache, but people aren't really coming to me for medical
Right.
issues. People are coming to me saying, I lost my job. I need some work on getting a new one. Someone will come to me and say, I lost my woman. How do I get her back? People will come to me and say, you know, that child of mine ain't acting right. They're hanging out with the wrong crowd.
Yep.
They're doing the wrong things. How do I control that situation? And then I will make magical preparations for them. I will be a root worker, and I will work recipes and work the rituals and the spell work around those herbs that will give them the desired results. So I am not a herbalist in that I have not studied for many, many, many years and consider myself certified and can show paperwork with the state or the county. I've worked with herbs for pretty much all my life because both of my parents are avid gardeners. My dad is 94 years old and still works in his garden every day. They grow
Right.
food. And so I have worked with plants and herbs all my life, but I draw the line in considering myself an herbalist. I don't know if that makes sense. I think that it's similar to. I'm a terrific home cook. I can roast a bird and I can put anybody to shame with roasting bird, but I can't call myself a chef
Right.
because a
That makes
chef is
sense.
a chef is a legal definition. So
So
no,
can I
all of this is say I don't think it's the same. Not really.
can I expand on that just a little bit?
Sure.
Um, so the answer to that, so your answer is outstanding, but there is a there is a I don't know the best way to say it, but basically in Asian culture, there are people that are considered as herbalists, and they do not go to schools or anything else. They kind of do what you do. They know that this will work with this, will work with this, will work with this. So it really depends on what type of herbalist you're talking about when we're dealing with this. Because I mean, some people would consider you an herbalist because you deal with all the different plants and the medications they deal with it and everything else and stuff like that. So I can understand how that question came up. And for me, I instantly went to my Asian friends who do this because if I say, "Hey, look, um, I'm having an issue with these people that are down the street and I need to find a way to make them to stop," they would be like, "Okay, then I'm going to give you some of this and I'm going to give you some of this and you're going to mix it and this is what you're going to do with it and you're going to drink it and this is going to keep them away from you," type of things. And that's what along the lines of what you do. But a lot of people in his culture call him an herbalist. So I really think it comes down to what you would consider an herbalist to be. I mean, I completely understand because like Nikki, my wife's her sister is a pharmacist. You know, she had to go to school to learn all this and everything else and stuff like that. Well, there's herbalists to go to the schools and learn all that other stuff too. But then there's what I would call the natural herbalists or the natural, whatever. So, see, and Zhang's backing me on this, almost like I knew. Zhang says, "You're right, Tom. Asian mostly knows about herbal." So yeah, and that's kind of how I know that takes place. So I mean, I know you don't call yourself an herbalist, but I can see how somebody would, simply because of what you do and what you work with. So I can understand the question coming up because I'm like, oh, well, that because when she asked it, I'm like, well, that makes sense to me, and I'm like, and then you explained it, I'm like, My mind didn't even think of the doctoral side of the house. It just went straight to the natural side of the house.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, the thing is, I think the reason that I don't consider myself an herbalist, because herbalists absolutely can tell you, okay, Tom, this is your situation, this is what you're suffering from. Go ahead and drink that. I don't want to get into that
Right.
because I don't necessarily know, because I, like you, have people all over the world who are
Right.
contacting me. And I'm not a doctor. I can't diagnose. So I
Right.
can only go by what they tell me they're going
Right.
through. I
Yeah.
can't examine them. So I don't want to suggest anything for them to drink. Now, my child and my hubby, yes, I'll give them things to drink because they're not
Right.
going to turn around and sue me or
Right.
complain if if
It
maybe they
didn't
feel
work.
worse. Yeah, if
Right.
they feel worse or
Yeah.
something. So yeah, I'm very envious of those who feel like they have enough confidence that they can
Yeah.
then give people things to ingest. I think
Off
that's
of a
great.
diagnosis. Yeah. Off of a word diagnosis. Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
So there's one thing that you said we'll come back to, but I have a question first. Because it stuck in my head when you started talking about them. Is there any one herb, root, whatever you want to call it? Is there something that is kind of the standard that is in all of yours? Like, is there one base unit, base herb that
Oh
you would
no,
always
no,
start with?
of course not.
Okay.
Because no, because every herb does something different.
Okay.
So there, yeah, so I would not put High John the Conqueror, which is about victory and about confidence and about living large against all obstacles. I wouldn't put High John in, say, a separation formula
Mm,
where
yeah.
someone where and I only do breakup work when two people come to me and say, we don't want this anymore and we want
Right.
an amicable way to consciously uncouple. All right, so I don't just slam, you know, I if somebody comes to me and says, I'm done with my
Mhm.
partner, I won't take the work if they haven't discussed it with that partner.
Right.
I won't take the work. But if both partners wish to separate, I'm not going to put High John the Conqueror in that in that spiritual concoction. I'm not
Right.
going to put roses or Damiana or catnip. Damiana is for sexual attraction. Catnip is for general attraction. I'm not going to put juniper in there. Juniper is for great sex when
Yeah.
people want to separate. So no, there is no one herb does it all. Although I
Yeah.
will say that basil is used extensively in hoodoo because it is healing and it is soothing and it does bring lovers together and it does bring attractive, it does bring attraction, and it does call money. So that one is like the queen of the herbs. But there are a lot of queen of herbs. Queen Elizabeth herb, orris
Mhm.
root, is also for feminine spiritual power, for the goddess in you. You know, there are so many out there. Cinnamon brings money. There's so much out there that no, I can't say there's one best or
Base,
go
like
to.
like one base root that you, or base herb that you're like, this is going to be in. I don't care what it is, but this is the base one we always start with. So that you don't have
Never,
that. Okay.
never,
Perfect.
never. Nope.
Rosie would like to know. So when you make something for someone, do you see any spirits that they have around them?
Sometimes I do. I am psychic in that I have always been, and I've always seen auras. I also am a bone reader, which is the South African style of divination, tossing bones, shells, and other curios. And I also am a tarot reader. I also see auras. So if I can see you, I can see your aura. I cannot see auras over the phone. I cannot see auras over Zoom, over a camera. But if I am in the same room with you, looking right at you, I can see your aura.
Okay. And Rosie also wants to know, do you believe in karma or someone's karmic debt with these herbs?
I absolutely believe in karma. I will leave it to all of you to decide if you believe in reincarnation, but I believe in both karma and reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely believe in karma. Karma is about being accountable. What goes around comes around. Fuck around, find out.
Yep.
Pardon my language. But
That's okay.
karma is about accountability. So I absolutely believe in karma. Now,
there you go.
Here's the difference, because you will hear certain pagan or Wiccan or witches go on and on and on and on and on about the threefold rule, the threefold law. Do as you will, but harm none, or it will come back to you threefold. Okay, I lived that way as a Druid. I also lived that way as a Christian. That's basically the golden rule.
Right.
However, in Hoodoo, if the situation requires, we will do harm. For an example, about 10 years ago in my neighborhood, in my region, not so much in the neighborhood where my home is, but in my region, there was an unknown rapist. Before we brought him down, he had raped 18 women.
Wow.
The last woman that he raped was in her 70s. Nobody knew who he was because he wore a face hood, one of those winter hoods over his face. Nobody saw his face. So we didn't know who we were dealing with. And when I say we, me and other root workers that I network with, we didn't know who we were dealing with. But we made a doll baby effigy for the unknown rapist. At least when I say we, in this case, me. Other people were working on their own projects to bring this rapist to justice. And long story short, we brought him to justice. But I made a felt effigy of a human being in black felt. And then before I closed it up, before I sewed it closed, because I stuffed it with newspaper and stuff. And before I sewed it closed, I made a name paper saying the unknown rapist. May you be bound. May you find justice. May karma come for your ass. I mean, that's called your petition, what you want done. And I put that in there with the doll baby, and I dripped black candle wax all over that thing, calling down curses on this asshole, telling him if he didn't stop doing what he was doing, that he was going to find himself in the grave. And then wrap that with snake shed. I also have 2 snakes that I've had for years, and so I use their snake shed. In Hoodoo, snake shed binds.
Is it binding? Yep.
It
I'd say it's binding for evil. Yep.
And we bound that, and I went and buried that doll baby in at the base of a crossroads, which I've never gone back to those crossroads. And the crossroads, that's a whole nother 2 hours, all right? But went to the crossroads, buried that bad boy. A few months later, He had not committed any more crimes since then, but a few
Right.
months later, they busted him and he's sitting in prison right now. Now, I don't take
Good.
full credit for that because several of us were working on that. Several
Right.
of us were working on that. And that's why I always say that I don't even criticize Christians' prayers because it's all sympathetic magic.
Right.
It's when they're praying for this guy to be caught, so are we. We're all doing it in different ways.
Right.
And so that is one of the ways that um, I can show that no, we don't always do and harm none. Because
Right.
if I went according to that philosophy, I wouldn't have done what I did to
Right.
that criminal. All right. Also, take it back even further. Back when my people were enslaved here in the Caribbean and in the US and in Brazil, in South
Mhm.
America, when my people were enslaved, hoodoo, they may not have called it hoodoo, but their magic, their plant magic that they
Mhm.
used was used extensively to make their lives better, to keep massa from beating them,
For obedient.
to,
Yep.
keep a partner, a husband, a wife from being sold away at auction block, to keep your babies from being
Right.
sold away from auction block, to keep to keep uh to keep massa off you in bed, if you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
All kinds of things were done. And so people, if if my people went according to that do no harm
Right.
or the threefold law, we'd still be enslaved
Yeah.
to this day. So there are times when you can't say do no harm. Sometimes harm has to be done to prevent additional harm.
Right.
And people are going to, the thing about it in spiritual circles, this is a debate that rages ever on. This is not a debate that's ever going to find a solution because people feel very strongly on all sides of the debate, on all
Right.
sides.
Yep.
So, but that's where I come from, is that I believe that there are absolutely times that I've got to stop evil, that I've got to bind a criminal, that I've got to stop someone from harassing me or stop someone from oppressing me. And I will
Right.
definitely have no problems. I sleep like a baby using hoodoo to protect myself and to make
Yep.
myself my life better. I absolutely believe though that whatever I do has consequences. So I'm
Mhm.
not going to just come and harm you and think whatever I can get away with it. I know that everything you do has a reaction,
Yes.
everything. And that's why I make sure that before I do any kind of hoodoo that could be considered not helpful, not bringing in love or bringing in joy or bringing in money or bringing in a good job, but to stop somebody or to bind somebody, I know that I have to make sure that I'm justified.
Right.
When I walk into my house, I want to be justified. I don't
Mhm.
want to say, I don't want to know in my heart that I'm a bad person. So before I ever undertake anything that could be considered baleful or harmful or not necessarily positive, I make sure that I search myself. I
Mhm.
search my mind. I search my motivation. If it's done for a client, I search their motivations. I do readings on it to make sure whether if they request a tarot reading, I'll do a tarot reading. If they request a bone reading, I'll do a bone reading. If they request an intuitive reading, I'll do an intuitive reading. But I will do a reading on it first, and often more than one time, to make sure that when I undertake something that goes after somebody, to stop them, to bind them, to control them, I make sure that I am justified so that karma, which I absolutely believe in, karma doesn't come for me, that I am clean karmically.
Right. So I think that's going to lead us into a great segue, because early in this conversation, when you're talking about stuff, you said, remind you, because this is the second topic that you want to make sure you understand the separation of, explain the difference between hoodoo to voodoo.
Yes, a lot of people, because they rhyme, a lot of
Yep.
people think that hoodoo is the same as voodoo.
Or is a form of, or something, yes. So,
Right.
yep.
Or is a derivation of voodoo.
Yep.
So let me jump back a step, and I'm going to start with this. Voodoo is absolutely incorrect way to pronounce the religion of the Haitian people. The correct spelling and
Yes.
the correct saying is Voodoo. And it's spelled VOODON.
And yep.
Voodoo. Okay. I don't know where this voodoo came from, but I think it's very similar to, the people in China told us that their city, their capital city was Beijing. And we said
Right.
Peking.
Yeah,
And they
right.
said Beijing. And we said Peking. Same thing with Mumbai. Mumbai, Bombay. Mumbai,
Right.
Bombay. So Voodoo is the
Yeah.
religion of the Haitian people. And Voodoo is an initiatory religion. Hoodoo, you don't need to be initiated to anything. You need to learn your craft, but you don't need to go through a religious or a ceremonial initiation. Also, Voodoo is a religion. It has its deities. It has its spiritual ceremonies. It has its spiritual writings and its spiritual teachings. Hoodoo has rituals, our magical root work rituals. But if you're Christian in hoodoo, you can call upon the blood of Jesus Christ. If you follow some other religion, you can call upon the gods or the mentors or the leaders of your understanding. If you draw your strength from your ancestors, as I do, you call upon your ancestors to power your work. So hoodooists can be any religion. The people who practice voodoo are voodooists.
I say there's only one. There's no this or that. It is a strict, this is what you are.
Right.
Yes.
Hoodoo, you can have other gods. You can do,
Right.
you can, as long as you understand the power of the herbs, the way to call the herbs, the way to mix the herbs and to put them together, and the spiritual baths and the concepts and the philosophies, you don't need a deity.
Right.
You can even manifest if you're magical enough, if you have those that training or that talent, you can even manifest without calling upon deity.
Right.
I call upon the ancestors, my ancestors. And you brought up the fact that I was telling that person to use water. The reason that I say that is because all of our ancestors, the one common drink among them was water.
And that's exactly what you were saying when I was listening to that conversation right there. So I was like,
yeah,
oh,
I
remember this.
pour libations. I pour libations in water, and I give water as offerings, because all the human family, no matter where we're from, we all drank water and continue to drink water. Water is life. Water is sacred unto itself.
Rosie just said that too. Water is life. She just popped that up as soon as you said it. That's like you guys were in sync perfectly. So
great job, Rosie.
but yeah, and and I do know, and it was funny because I knew it was called Voodoo, and the reason why is because some people know this, some people don't, but I've actually spent time in Haiti, um, and
Nice. Oh, that's exciting. That's
I would
interesting.
I would say I'm lucky enough, but some people wouldn't look at it that way. I was lucky enough to have to spend times in the local smaller village communities, not
Right. So you weren't
so
at the big
so
resort. You were close
no.
to the people. Yeah, you were with the
Yes.
people.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah, so it's interesting because a lot of people don't understand that. I know it because I've said it the same thing when I was talking about you. I actually said voodoo first. I'm like, wait, I meant hoodoo, and I'm like, because they're two different things. I've never used the word voodoo because everyone looks at me like I'm a nut when I use the word
Oh yeah,
voodoo.
no, totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's just not something that is widely known or talked about.
right. Yeah, yeah, and it is. But so one thing that here's another misconception, and I know that you have an understanding of both sides of this. Um, you're explaining hoodoo very well, and you're because this is your craft, this is what you do. Um, but I'm kind of switching over to voodoo for a second because you actually have an understanding of that as well. And a lot of people have a misconception that voodoo is really only an evil practice,
Oh, oh
where
my
it is
goodness.
not.
Well, you
Because
can
that's how it's
blame
depicted. Because
yeah,
that's how
you
it's
can
always
blame
depicted in
Hollywood.
movies and everything. Exactly.
You can blame
Yep.
Hollywood for that. I mean,
Hmm.
Hollywood has taken everything that African people and people of African descent has done and has demonized it.
Right.
So this is nothing new. I mean, when I watched American Horror Story Coven, I was
Oh yeah.
horrified when they
Right.
turned a Legba, who is um,
Excuse me.
I don't know if he's a major deity in Voodoo, but I know
Mhm.
that he's an African Orisha, and he is way up there in the
Right.
pantheon. And he is basically the beginning and the end. He's the
Hmm.
fates. And so to conflate the Voodoo, and I believe he's called is he called is he called a Legba? Or is he? I can't remember what he's called in Voodoo, but I know he's a Legba in the like Santeria, Lukumi,
Right.
those who have the African Orishas, and I know Voodoo has African Orishas also. Um, he may conflate with Dambala. I don't know for sure. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. But I was horrified when they did
Yeah.
that on American Horror Story and turned him
Yeah.
into the voodoo
The
Satan.
voodoo. Yep.
What the fuck? I mean,
Right.
pardon my expression.
That's
Number
okay. That's why I put
one,
that in parental advisory above you. So that
yeah,
way you can say whatever you want.
I'm so sorry, but
It's okay. No, that's
but
why it's up there. You can say whatever you want on the show.
the Orisha, the African religions, and I can't speak like for them all, but for the
Right.
ones that I'm aware of that hold the Orishas sacred, they don't have a Satan.
Right.
Satan is a Judeo-Christian concept
It is. It
of
is.
the
Very much
ultimate
so.
personification of evil.
Yeah.
Um, the African people do not personify. They don't anthropomorphize and turn evil into a specific individual, which is
Right.
what Satan is.
Which is what
So
Satan is. Yes.
so having that Orisha or voodoo Satan was so offensive.
Yeah.
But no, it's really a religion of healing. What they're
It
trying to
is.
do is heal. Now, yeah, they
Absolutely.
use tactics to throw off their oppressors. They're the only African people in the Western world that threw off slavery. The
Yeah.
rest of us were freed. The Haitians freed themselves.
Right. Yep.
Okay. In fact, to this day, um, British and French government is still paying, not the
Oh yeah.
slaves, but the slaveholders for their lost revenue, their
Right.
lost property when the slaves in Haiti got rid of that system. And so,
Yep.
of course, in American culture, we think of the Haitians and voodoo as being evil
Right.
because they successfully threw off their white oppressors. Of
Yeah.
course, they're evil. Of
Yeah.
course. And
Yep.
of course, any religion that isn't white Jesus is considered evil.
Hmm.
But really, if you study Voodoo, it's about healing yourself physically, it's about healing yourself mentally, it's about spiritual cleanliness in your home
Yeah.
and physical cleanliness. I don't know that much about it, but I know they have a lot of cleansing rituals. They have a lot of healing rituals. They have spiritual healers. I know they do a lot of energy work and a lot of work to heal the actual land. If
Yep.
that's evil, then sign me up, baby. Sign me up.
Right. Yeah.
Sign me up.
We were actually lucky enough to be blessed during a ceremony. My team was, which was, I guess it was very rare to, um, to basically have white people blessed while we were over there. But we were
Because
actually there to protect.
can I just say it's rare
Absolutely.
because white people really don't know how to act when they're over there. They
Right. They really
they
don't.
they
They
don't.
do not.
My mother spent some
Yep.
time over there working as a nurse in a clinic
Hmm.
over there, and she says white Americans come over there. They like to act like these black people are beneath them, like
Right.
they're servants. It's like
Yeah.
they don't act that way here, but when they go to the Caribbean, they act a fool and
Right.
really offensive.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, you were very lucky. That is very unusual, but
It was.
that tells me that you went there and you acted respectfully, that you went there and you treated everybody like the way you wanted to be treated, and you
Right.
saw everybody as a human being like yourself. That tells me that you were invited, you and your team were invited and included in
Yes.
those
Very
ceremonies
much.
because you were behaving like decent individuals.
Just
That's
decent people. Yes.
that's what
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
tells me.
And it was funny because is this is when I was military and I was over there with my military team. And but we were over there of all things to help. There was rival factions that were going on over there, and we were over there trying to identify the factions to say, look, y'all are fighting the wrong people.
Yeah.
You're fighting each other, and you're doing it, and that's
Mhm.
and they bring us in to be the heavy hitters to help enlighten. But we were also there on a basically a peace finding mission with 13 of us compared to the entire place of Haiti to try to get that under control. So that was interesting. But the way we went about it, they respected it so much that we were actually invited to a lot of the different ceremonies. And one of them that they did before we left was they gave us a blessing ceremony, which was very cool to be
That's
a part of.
beautiful.
So yeah, that was really cool. But we actually took part of a lot of like we saw a lot of the stuff that happened there. Um, and I personally saw probably a good 5 or 6 voodoo rituals or ceremonies happen, and it was really cool to see what they were doing.
You're very
Um,
lucky because they are not open to the public.
they
They're
are not.
usually only open to initiates.
Yes.
So
Yep.
you really made an impression when you were over there.
Yeah.
You made
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
positive impression.
They let me know
Yeah,
that. They let me know that. They're like, this isn't normal. We're telling you right now, this isn't normal.
yeah,
A couple of them, I was the only one to go in. They were like, this guy, you're allowed to come in here to witness what we're about to do because this isn't open to the outside world. But
right, right.
and because I was our voice of our team, they liked how I handled it. So they were like, you need to come watch what we do because you're going to see what we're trying to do to help the situation here, like in a positive
Right,
way. So it was
right.
nice. Um, and thank you, Rosie. Rosie says, like, she says, Tom, you probably could have went alone because of your of your spirit being golden, and they would have reacted the same way. Yeah, it's weird how I get reactions from people on my own, which is pretty interesting. Rosie said there's also no profanity words in Lakota, because you were talking about there's no word for Satan in a lot of the cultures, and it's true, there's not. It's just made up Hollywood stuff.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
kind
you
of
know,
how it
that
works.
Hollywood thing, that whole the evil comes from, and I think I can pinpoint it to the dolls.
Oh yeah,
To the
absolutely.
dolls, you know,
That's
sticking the
where.
pins in the dolls.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
Wrap
you
binding
know,
the dolls or sticking them or whatever else they do with them to show that they're trying to force harm or force anything, that is a negative form onto another human being. That's all they show.
right.
That's
They
how
don't
it's
show that the dolls are also used for healing. The dolls
right.
are also used to protect your property. The dolls are also used to protect your children. Put a little healing doll in your little kid's backpack that's going to help
Yep.
protect them. They don't show any of that. They just show the people sticking in the
Right.
needles to
Right.
harm somebody who probably doesn't even know that they did something wrong.
Right.
So it's offensive, but it definitely
Yeah.
comes from Hollywood.
Yes. And Uilani, thank you for that. Uilani posted, yes, Tom is very respectful when visiting the islands. I went and saw her over on Hawaii. So I was over there for a little bit. And I was actually lucky enough to meet up with Uilani and got to share some experiences with them over there, which was nice. But yeah, and it's funny because we talk about the dolls, and one of the things they actually did for us, and they did it right out in the public. They were nice enough to show us, but they were talking about the dolls, and they actually used one of the dolls that they had to. They were showing how they were using it to try to heal an injured child, simply by working with the doll on the location the child was hurt, and it was amazing. I don't know if you want to call it just straight up belief, or if it was just if it's spiritual, whatever you want to do with it.
No, there's some real stuff there. There's real magic going on.
But within a 48-hour period, that child's shoulder was completely better. It was amazing. I mean, you're just like, wow, that's pretty awesome.
And really, does it matter what you call it? The bottom line is her shoulder was completely better.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how you got there.
Yeah.
The result is what we're looking for. I think that's a beautiful story.
Yeah. And Rosie was talking, and she also mentions her aunt is from the Hopi tribe and made a Cochina doll for protection.
There you go.
So yeah, absolutely. So, well, I think we're kind of at a good stopping point right now. We've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes, believe it or not. It flies by. I know it really does. And my audience, my family knows that our shows always seem to fly by really quick. Well, I would like to say that I'm going to give you an open invitation to come back at a later date if you'd like.
Maybe we'll talk about the crossroads.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe we can bring up something about the crossroads or something like that. I know that my audience is enthralled right now, like I am. So I know that they're going to want you back, and I'll talk to you backstage about how that works. But I think this is a great place to close it down, if you're okay with that.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I just knew when I met you, at Mystic Fest that it was going to be a good thing. I mean, that your energy is so great, and we just clicked with our talking.
We did.
I've really been looking forward to this. So thank you so much.
It was almost like we just knew each other forever, and when we started talking, it was like we lost a part of time where we just kind of disconnected for a little while, but now we found each other again to start talking again. Like
it was
we picked up like old friends
super
nowhere.
easy,
So
just super easy,
it
super
really
chill.
was. And I know my audience, I told you I call them my family. I know my family lived your energy. They all commented, man, your energy was fantastic. So, and it was such a learning lesson. I'm so happy that you came on, because there's so much that, I mean, people may have heard Hoodoo, but they have no idea what it was about.
Right. Well, I love educating.
And And a lot of people commented too, not only were you giving information about your hoodoo, but you were also giving history lessons along with it, why it was important, the way things happen and everything else. So, so it was fantastic that you brought everything in like that. And my audience absolutely loved it. I know they did, because I'm a history buff. I'm a history nerd. Well, I'm a nerd about everything, kind of, but the history buff really shines with me too. So I was intrigued by a lot of the history as well. Uilani, I want to say thank you. Love your energy. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Wonderful show. Uilani saying thank you so much. Interesting in hearing new things. Thank you, Tom, and everyone. Love to hear about the crossroads. So that's like 2 or 3 people now that have mentioned the crossroads. So I think that's going to have to be what you come on for next time. At least you have enough time to plan for it. And I'll even make the invitation if you want to. If you want to bring on your daughter, you both can come on here and talk too.
Okay,
That's up to her. That's up to you two. I'll let you two fight that one out. But I can have up to 10 people at a time on my show, so there's no problem in fitting everybody on here.
Cool. All right.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So I'm going to send you backstage. Please don't leave. I'm just going to send you backstage, and I'll talk to you once the show is over.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
And blessings to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Bev. I'll be right with you. All right, everybody. That was the show for tonight. It was fantastic. I loved doing the show. So exciting that she was coming on. I've been kind of waiting for this one and saving it up until I can actually do the post. That's why I really didn't talk about her too much, because I knew this was going to be a really awesome show about something we really haven't talked about before. And it lived up to all my expectations plus more. So it was fantastic. I am still traveling. I am still doing a show next week. My next week's show is going to be with Michelle Roos. She has been on once before. One that we did an investigation with before out at Washington, Iowa, when we did the 3 different locations. So we're going to bring her on, and we're going to talk about some of the stuff that's upcoming, some of the new stuff she's been doing, whatever else. It'll be a really good show. But as I stated in the beginning, which I told people I would tell now, I am going to start cutting back on my shows starting in February. I will be doing a live like this every other week. I will still have on fantastic guests. I still have people lined up, but I'm going to start doing it every other week, because in the week that I am not doing a show, I will be recording my podcasts, and the podcast does not have a guest on it. It is simply me talking about information about whatever. If you guys have topics you want me to talk about, let me know. Other than that, I'm just going to be picking subjects. Like my first one that's already out there is all about elementals. It explains to you where they came from, how they work, what to expect from the elementals and stuff like that. The next one, I think I'm going to talk about the relationship between dragons and angels, how the colors match up with each other in all different cultures, how they both resonate with each other, basically where they came from, what they're here for. Turns out I developed a new ability, and that is actually people's dragons will come to talk to me to tell them what they're there for. So that was a little interesting. So it's kind of like a side note of what the angel is there to protect them for, but they're coming in the forms of dragons. If you want to find me, here's all my information. If you don't already know, please feel free to like, follow, share. Facebook.com, Stuff I Never Learned. Twitch, twitch.tv, Stuff I Never Learned. YouTube, youtube.com @Stuff I Never Learned. Please feel free to email me. I love getting emails. StuffINeverLearned@gmail.com. I can't make it any easier than that for you all. Other than that, have a great evening. Have a safe week. I will be right here in this exact chair next Monday, because I will still be at this location. Go ahead and taking care of you guys with another awesome guest. Other than that, stay safe. Much love. Have a great week. And I will talk to you.